All right. Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, episode 71. Take 4. We're doing it. We're going to make this work this time. Our second episode of season 3. I am Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
This is Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter. So Action, big trip to Vegas, Circa Million trip, number 2. It was a little bit different this year with masks and such, but we hit the D downtown to register for the contest with DJ Ward Enterprises, our proxy, and we had Melissa this year, our good luck charm. You can see some of those pictures up on Instagram. So that night, you obviously hit it big on the craps table.
Yeah, was that Saturday night?
Yeah.
The weekend kind of runs together, as most trips do.
It does.
But the craps table were hot again. I think that eventually I'm going to have my name taken there. It's behind some of those little tables, and I hope that I don't get banned in the future because I'm hitting them hard. And hopefully we can continue doing that in the contest.
That's right. We had a good weekend, opening weekend. We obviously had some great time at the pool, and kind of weird because you had to wear a mask everywhere except for in the pool itself. You were sitting on the edge of the pool, had to put the mask on. But we did hit a couple of pools. That was fun at the Lincoln Harrah's and had some nice dinners as well. It was actually pretty great weather, a little cooler than last year. We were able to be outside a little bit more. I had my friends as well, Samira and her sister. So had a great time. I extended my trip, and maybe I spent a little too much money, but I did have some good wins in the NFL at the sports book.
Yeah, we had some good winners. Both of us were in on that Arizona Cardinals money line.
Mm-hmm.
A nice victory over the San Francisco 49ers. And Melissa even got in on some of that action, although she took the spread bet route, took the full 7 points, where
Sure.
you and I got 260.
Plus 260, cash and tickets. So exciting trip, had a good time. I used the William Hill app this time, which was pretty easy considering the lines were super long at the books. And one of the differences from last year was they were basically only taking reservations for seats in the books. They weren't letting people stand around. We kind of had to stand outside of the book and look at the big TVs from afar. We were doing that at Caesars. They had a nice setup there. But in reality, it's just kind of a weird, awkward situation. We're getting pushed around at, I guess that was, what was that? Paris or the Mirage, right?
At the Mirage, yeah.
It's around. So, we're talking about making this an annual trip. Maybe make it a little bit bigger and have a great time. So,
Yeah.
Excellent.
Maybe next year we can get some of the listeners to tag along with us. We can do a little meet and greet, Bar Canada or at Circa Sports when the new hotel is open.
That's right. We did see Mike Palm at the D at the Bar Canada. We didn't talk to him, but saw some of the other guys there too. And I'm pretty sure I saw the guy who runs William Hill too, Nick Bodanovich too. I think that was at at Caesars maybe?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I saw him when I was trying to get my ticket, put my money in the account there. So anyway, let's talk about the episode. We'll briefly go over the U.S. Open and just kind of touch on college football for a minute. This will still be a predominantly NFL episode. Talk about the recap and then our picks for this week. Not a lot of legislative updates to say, although I will say I saw an article about how much the Illinois books made in July. So I'm sure they're going to have a huge September as they open up, with guys like me doing online accounts. I even got our buddy Zach Suter, Rainmaker. He opened up an account today at Rivers as well, Bet Rivers online.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, these online accounts are great. Even in Vegas, William Hill has the app. Circa has that app. You no longer have to wait in lines at the counter. I think you and I got up early on Sunday morning, and the line was already like 80 people deep to make bets for the NFL games. So the online avenue is certainly a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about college football just briefly, not on the agenda, sorry, Action. But I heard today that the Big Ten is going to play next month, so that's a big change. We're not really prepared for the college season because we weren't, all in, and there was so much uncertainty when we were starting to do the pod again. But any takes on the Big Ten playing and some of these other conferences playing?
Well, they got new medical evidence, Wegs, which led them to this groundbreaking decision.
Right.
Um, yeah, to be honest, I saw that headline today and I was kind of indifferent about it. Like we talked about previously, I haven't put any effort to college football, and I'm probably not going to be making any early week wagers either. I'm planning to wait it out week in, week out, make sure that I get the latest and greatest news before I'm putting any of my bets in, because you're seeing a lot of these college athletes that are popping up with positive cases.
Right.
And really some of them aren't even announced until like an hour before the game starts. So in this case, the late news is really the best news.
Yeah, the NFL has a really established protocol that they're following. Colleges, it's the Wild West. I did hear Ed Ogeron basically said, if I can do my bet at Ed Ogeron, most of the guys have COVID.
Nice.
Half their team has got COVID, apparently. The other thing that I heard today on VSiN that was interesting related to this is that a lot of the players have opted out for the season, especially in the Big Ten when they thought that the season wasn't going to happen. So they're going to get ready for the NFL draft. We don't know if they're going to come back. Some of those guys are, from Ohio State. There's basically a top 10 pick at, offensive lineman, a cornerback. Your guy, I think what's his name, from the receiver, what's his name?
Rondell Moore.
Rondell
Yeah.
Moore. He opted out for Purdue. So you had mentioned, in take two of this, the quarterback for Michigan had opted out, although I heard he might transfer because maybe he has a difference with the khaki guy. So I don't know. I mean, it is a lot of uncertainty, even more than you see in the NFL.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that given the current environment and me wanting to keep my bankroll tight, I'm
Yeah,
probably going to be playing a lot less college football this season. Focus on this contest here.
agreed. Well, let's touch briefly on the U.S. Open. It's at Winged Foot. It starts tomorrow. We're taping today, Wednesday. So this will probably air tomorrow. So, you've got some fades here. You're not talking about some favorites. So who are you fading in this tournament?
Well, I'm looking at players that can't really drive the ball straight. I've seen reports all week about how this rough is ridiculously long, and you're going to see a lot of these players who are normally left, right, that may have been backwards, that are going to be really posting some high scores this week. So 3 guys I've picked out that I'm fading in matchups, and I'm going to oppose them are Bubba Watson, Phil Mickelson, as well as Bryson DeChambeau. I think he's already come out and said that his plan is to crush it as far as he can, like he does in every tournament. And you and I both know that's not going straight. So I'm going to be playing against these guys to hopefully cash some tickets this week.
Yeah, you got to pick those precision players. One of the things for our new listeners about betting golf that we've suggested in the past is to not bet on the kind of the futures of the champion because it's basically the embedded vig or the juice to the casino. If you're getting, John Rahm was probably the favorite at plus 1,000 or something. There's so many other people that can win. You're basically betting him against the field, which is definitely in the favor of the casino. So what you should maybe look at is these matchup approaches or something like that that we suggested. I know that DJ and Rahm are the favorites, so those guys may be okay to try, but they're not going to be paying out like some of the long shots.
Yeah, I think Rahm is a pretty heavy favorite, 8 or 9, 10 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that he's got some value there given his recent form and his ability to hit those iron shots as well as keep the ball in the fairway.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Well, good luck this weekend with the U.S. Open. I will not be betting. I have not done well in the past. So, when Francesco Molinari blew it at the Masters last year, I had to quit golf because I guess it's
That was the end of your golf bankroll.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I blew a lot of money on golf and horse racing last year. It was just like a waste of my money. So this year, stick to the NFL or maybe a little college football.
There you go.
All right, well, let's talk about the NFL week 1. I had a little by the numbers summary that is kind of interesting. In terms of the covers, you had basically an even split, favorites 8, dogs 8 in this week's matchups, which is really good for the book when they split it like that. And then there were 6 straight up upsets. There were opportunities to win money line, but you had to pick the right ones, I guess. There were 9 home winners seven road winners, which usually you have more home winners, but this week maybe the home field advantage. We'll have to look at that going forward. And then finally the totals, it was just 8 over, 7 under, and then I rated Kansas City as a push. So again, almost right down the middle for all these metrics, which always means money for the casinos, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we talked about it before. They, for the most part, try to keep bets on equal sides.
Hmm.
And I do think that a lot of sharp money was winning this weekend, which usually is aligned with the sports books and against the public. So looking there, I mean, not a huge disparity between home and road. I know we talked last week about the potential advantage of non-travel or being in their home environment. We know there's going to be a lot less fans this season, but it doesn't really look like you can glean anything from those records in week one.
Right. We'll see. There's a lot of home favorites this week too, so it may flip over. So let's talk about some of these games. I mean, the one that kind of hurt us, but and also Action, who's a Colts fan. The Colts, we had the Jags, sucking this year, but they came out and played in week one. They got the upset straight up 27-20 over the Colts. Really by the numbers was weird though. I mean, the Colts dominated yardage 445 to 241. Rivers did have the two turnovers though, but it looks like the Jags were able to cash in the red zone twice, out of two. And we've noted that this is probably the hugest survivor loss maybe of this season, as the Colts, we're supposed to be a safe pick.
Yeah, we're supposed to be. And I think we thought they were safe at -8 even. And
Sure.
it didn't turn out that way. I think the early goal line stand by the Jaguars really turned the tide in this game. And really, Minshew played pretty well. When you look at the box score, I think he passed like 95% completion percentage.
Mm.
Was pulling it up here, 173 yards, nothing spectacular. But you also had the rookie running back, James Robinson, who played really well. And I think when you're looking at this, although the Colts dominated the box score, you do have to question their defensive performance a little bit by allowing Jacksonville to post those kind of numbers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll talk about them this week, and we'll see if they're a fade, but and the Colts, because they got a tough game. Next game was the big one we talked about already. The Cardinals came through for us, taking down the 49ers, in San Francisco, 24-20. This was a plus 260 money line winner for us. We were all over this game and in our contest. Kyler Murray, what I was noting is they just got this San Francisco defense tired, which showed that they weren't conditioned yet for real games. The final two drives of the touchdown drives for the Cardinals were a 96-yard drive and a 76-yard drive. You never would have seen that last year against this Niner defense. So it may take a couple of weeks for some of these defenses to get ready.
Yeah, Kyler Murray was pretty awesome with his legs. I mean, he only had 230 pass yards, but he ran for 100 on the ground, plus another touchdown there. And I think that his performance in that offense really added DeAndre Hopkins, who was just a man out there, kind of was surprising against that Niners defense. But on the flip side, I'm kind of asking questions about the 49ers. They're already showing some cluster injuries at the wide receiver position. Samuel was hurt. They were without the rookie Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle picked up an injury in that first half as well.
Right. That severely limits that offense for sure. So we'll see what they got to go to the Jets. That may be a get well game for them on the East Coast, but we'll talk about that later. The next game was the Eagles just falling apart against Washington. They came out guns a-blazing, 17-0. In fact, this was kind of a weird, mirror game of last year. I think that the Washington, I did it again. The Washington football team was up 17-0 last year at home against the Eagles, but they blew the game. This year was kind of a reverse script where I wrote down that the first four drives that Philly had, they had 210 yards. The rest of the game, they had 100. So we are really high on this Washington defense. I know you love them too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the defensive front for the Redskins,
I know.
the Washington football
Washington's
team
football team.
was awesome. 8 sacks, and I'm kind of read this quick reads article on Football Outsiders every week, and they mentioned that the game from Carson Wentz will go down as one of the 20 worst games of all time.
Yeah.
So that tells you anything about the Washington performance. They certainly played some football on Sunday.
Yeah, three turnovers for Wentz. That definitely, did them in. But you got to give Washington credit. They showed some grit, and maybe Ron Rivera has something here. I do love the defense. If they can get enough offense, I remember we were watching that game in the first half. There were some guys behind us like, can Washington score? I mean, it was just like they couldn't do anything. And there were some adjustments made, and they looked a lot better in the second half. Could be a very interesting game as they go down to Arizona on Sunday. So the
Mhm.
next one, I got to pump up the Bears here. Here we go. Their first win in 7 years on opening day. I know a lot of people doubted my Bears, and they probably should have lost the game because, DeAndre Swift dropped the second to last play of the game. But they did come back. They were down 23-6 in this game. I don't know how they did it. I mean, Trubisky, 21 points, three touchdown passes in the fourth quarter. Definitely excited that they won the game. We did pick this in the contest. I'm not saying Trubisky is the guy. I just know that he likes playing against the Lions, and unfortunately, the Lions missed a chance to win this game outright. But they probably would have pushed the total or pushed the number. I think, did we get -3 in the contest? Is that right?
Yeah, correct. +3. Yeah.
All right, +3 for the.
Uh, it was definitely a good call by you. I think in the first half, you and I had both written that one off, and it looked like that Trubisky was going to be headed to the bench at one point
Yeah.
for Nick Foles, but he did a complete turnaround in that second half and really closed the game out almost perfectly.
Hmm.
And the Bears got to the window. We'll definitely cash that ticket, but I'm not so certain that the Lions are really what everyone had cracked them up to be preseason. That performance was a little bit disappointing, certainly closing the game out.
Exactly. You've noted a bunch of positive notes from the NFL this week that you wanted to go over. You want to hit those?
Yeah, I mean, the first one that I wanted to talk about was Russell Wilson.
Hmm.
Incredible game. And it's really more on the coaching staff who are finally letting him throw the ball. 65% passes from the Seahawks on Sunday, which led to a number two offensive rating of DVO per DVOA. He was 88% completion percentage and threw for over 300 yards and four touchdowns.
Yeah.
And I went and did some shopping this morning and grabbed a number on Russell Wilson to win the MVP +600. I think there's some pretty good value there.
We talked about that in the preview show last week. I think that he is legit. I think he's probably just top to bottom the best quarterback in the NFL right now. Let him do it. Let him hit these guys. They've got some weapons. They do have a good running game, but don't wait till the fourth quarter. Light it up early. So I'm glad that they did that this time.
Yeah. We touched on the Washington football team, ranked number one per DVOA on
Hmm.
that defensive side. And how about Josh Allen?
Oh yeah.
Quietly, nice performance despite his two fumbles. He had over 300 passing yards and another 57 on the ground. So he certainly didn't help himself in our minds, but the Bills got to the window for us, and that's all that matters.
What are his odds for the MVP?
I didn't go quite that far down, Wegs, I'll tell you.
I do love
Uh,
Josh Allen, but I told you I was screaming at the TV at Caesars when I saw him fumble the second time. The guy is a fumble machine. If he keeps the ball, this team is legit. But just don't give these opportunities. He had two fumbles in the red zone. They could have scored more points.
yeah, certainly could have. And although we didn't need them, hopefully they'll save them for future weeks.
Sure.
The last one I have here is New England and the offense. I think that Belichick showed us pretty, and Josh McDaniels showed us that they want to use Cam Newton and his strengths. I think he only had 155 passing yards and one first down in the first nine throws, but he tacked on a multitude of running yards for 99 yards and several first downs and a couple of touchdowns. So
Yeah.
Cam Newton impressive in his debut.
He looked good. He looked under control. He looked healthy. We'll see if he stays that way. I don't know if he can run 14 times every week, but that game plan worked against Miami, and they got the job done. It looks like New England's going to be one of those under teams, right? Because that defense
Yeah.
is really good, and if they're going to run like that, especially with Cam, I mean they got to 32. Uh, I don't know if they're unless they score defensive touchdowns. I don't know if they're going to score many more than 21, 24 a game. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. On the flip side, the Minnesota defense, and especially in the secondary, just a terrible outing. They got torched by Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay,
Right,
364 passing yards and four touchdowns. And they sacked Aaron Rodgers a total of 0 times in that game.
right.
I think they really missed Daniil Hunter, and I certainly think we should keep our eye on his status for this weekend.
What about MVP odds for Aaron Rodgers? He'd be a dark
Uh,
horse, right?
he could be. He certainly has done it before, and I think that he has the pedigree.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that he's going to be able to maintain that level throughout this season.
Right. But another game that both teams were kind of moving up and down the field. I kind of made a bad in-game wager about the under early, and then Green Bay reeled off like 3 touchdowns in the second quarter. Uh, so it looked like a defensive battle. I think people just get tired out there. And then you
Mhm.
already mentioned this 49ers, there's all these injuries, on their offense. But there were a lot of injuries. You had Michael Thomas go down, Le'Veon Bell, your guy Marlon Mack, he's out for the year. He tore his Achilles, right? So
Yep.
got to watch out. Thomas shouldn't be out for that long. Is he in the IR?
IR, but new this season, the IR can be as short as 3 weeks.
Okay.
So it's a new rule with the COVID pandemic. They are allowing them to come back after a couple of weeks out. I did read that it's a high ankle sprain, and I do think that he's expected back within a couple of weeks, but certainly a huge loss for the Saints. How
Yeah.
do you think that he might be valued in terms of point spread, Michael Thomas?
That's a great question. I mean, the Saints still look good last week against Tampa, with basically him getting injured early. It's got to be a couple of points though, right? I mean, especially if they go on the road, they're going to what, Seattle this week, is that right? So that's one of no, they're going to the Raiders. Shoot,
Yes,
yeah,
that's right.
the
Monday
Raiders.
night.
That's a game I am targeting actually. So I would say he's worth a couple of points.
Okay.
Yeah, and then yeah, there was a lot of, but the other guy we didn't mention here, Big Ben looked a lot better in the second half against they're playing the Giants, they stink, but he was a little rusty early, but he started hitting his spots in the second half for Pittsburgh. So a lot of interesting stuff on week one.
Yeah,
Um,
and Patrick Mahomes obviously kind of got lost in Thursday night football game.
well, the two teams that looked the best to me were Kansas City and the Ravens, right? Those two teams, I mean, the Ravens destroyed the Browns. It wasn't even a story. And Kansas City was lighting up Houston. It kind of got a little closer, but there was a no contest there as well. Those two teams look primed to go.
Hmm.
Well, let's jump into week two for the previews. I kind of did what I did last week, kind of looking at both the opening lines, and I don't know when those were made, and then the current spreads, and just kind of looked at some options here. You'll probably differ in some of my spots, but some of the games I'm eyeing initially that we can discuss. First of all, Jacksonville, I'm not all over them, but they go to Tennessee. But more importantly, Tennessee didn't look so great in week one. Now, Denver's a pretty good team. We kind of talked about that. We glazed over it. They actually ended up covering the number because it flipped all the way to Tennessee. So Denver covered the number
Hmm.
against Tennessee. But I mean, Derrick Henry is always going to be solid, but that offense wasn't quite clicking. This 9 points, they're favored by 9 points at home, the Titans, in a pretty low scoring game at 43 is the total. I actually like the total under, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm getting on the contest with the Jags, but I'm going to look at this number for a personal bet.
Yeah, I think that you're seeing some movement here, and this number opening at 11 and down to 9, probably after the Tennessee outcome on Monday night, and
Hmm.
certainly after Jacksonville. I personally don't think that I'd be involved with the Jaguars at anything under double digits. You might have a little value if it gets back to 10 or 10 and a half, but I'm
Sure,
just not sure that I'm going to see this Jacksonville team take that show on the road. I
sure.
think that week one performance by them was probably their get up game, and I'm still expecting them to fall back to reality here soon.
Gotcha. Another game that I'm interested in, and you can disagree with me after the Phillies second half performance, is the Rams are going to Philly. This will be Philly's first home game of the year. Right now, it opened at -3 for Philly, and now they're a 1 point dog at home. Something's not quite right here to me. I know that you said that Wentz may be hurt. They didn't play well in the second half at Washington, but I don't think this Rams defense is as good as Washington's. And
Mhm.
you know, maybe the home field doesn't mean anything anymore, but we'll see. I would be interested in taking this team at home getting points.
Yeah, I think so. I was, I'm glad you went that direction because I was worried that you were going to be on the Rams here. I
Mm,
think that this is far too much of a movement in this line. I mean, you could have had the Rams obviously at three, even 3.5 on the
mhm.
look ahead last week. And now this line has moved a full 4.5 points, unless there is some major injury that is not being um, disseminated to the public. I think that you definitely have some serious value on Philadelphia here. I've already thrown them into a teaser, in fact, getting them up over a touchdown, which I think is some pretty serious value. So I could definitely be convinced to take the nasty looking Eagles.
Yeah, so just for our new listeners this season, a teaser is basically what you can do. You have to put two teams together, but in this case, Action is going to tease that total up, that spread from 1 to 7, which obviously we know is a key number in the NFL. He's got to pick another. What's the other teaser leg in this case?
Pittsburgh,
Okay,
7.5 down to 1.5.
so he went the other way. So Pittsburgh's going to sell their 7.5 point favorites at home against Denver. Dials them down to 1.5. Both of those have to hit for him to win the bet, but I like those actually quite a bit. That's a good teaser. Nice job, Action.
Thank you.
Another one is Carolina. Now, Tampa obviously didn't look great. I know that Bruce Arians kind of called Tom Brady out after playing pretty poorly against the Saints, although there's kind of mixed reviews. Pro Football Focus said he played pretty well, but on paper it didn't look so great. Carolina is getting 9.5 on the road. I know they're not great, but they look decent against the Raiders, and they scored a lot of points. 9.5 seems like a big total. I know they're at home. It's a divisional game. Any interest in this game?
I don't think so. I don't think that I'm going to be looking to back Carolina anytime soon. And I mean, Tampa Bay, I think may have some value though if you're looking at the other side. Would
Okay.
have difference between 8.5 and 9.5 isn't really much at all in this league. And I think, like you mentioned, Tampa was a little impressive despite dropping the game to New Orleans. I think there was a couple of turnovers that I read later were not Tom Brady's fault. I think there was some miscommunication between him and Evans.
Sure.
And I fully expect that Tampa might get right this weekend and put up a pretty big number on that Carolina team.
Yeah, you see if
What are your
TV.
thoughts?
Well, I mean, I get it. TB12 could come back and light them up. I'm not really sure. I just don't love taking, big numbers on. I'm not a big Tampa fan this year. I think that they're going to be an
Mhm.
average team, but maybe it's a bounce back at home. So, probably good not to jump all in on this one, not like a money line or something.
Mhm.
The next game I was looking at was Denver and Pittsburgh. This is at Pittsburgh, and the total used to be 44.5. It's down to 41. I know that's a key
Mhm.
number at 42, but I still think this is an underplay. Pittsburgh's defense is really good. They stuffed Saquon Barkley on Monday night, and Denver's defense, even without Von Miller, played really well against the Titans. They're super solid, and I don't know. 41 is a low number, but I still like the under in this game.
Yeah, I think you're looking at something there too. It's you definitely lost a little bit of value there, dropping off the key of 44 and under 42. But I think that you're probably on the right side of that one. That Pittsburgh defense was incredible on Monday night. They're ranked number 2 behind Washington in the early DVOA, and
Mhm.
certainly Denver doesn't show you much on offense. And I think that Fangio prefers to slow the pace as well. So looking at under there is not a bad idea. What are your thoughts on taking the Steelers in the contest, depending on that number? Obviously, 7 would be
Yeah,
nice.
7. I mean, 7.5. I probably wouldn't do. Just you know, that hook is no good. But I do like the Steelers a lot, and I do think Denver's going to struggle to score against them. So I'm not against it. We didn't take them this week,
Mhm.
and they came through. So I did win a personal bet on that one. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, that's
both
what we can look at.
both teams coming off the Monday nighter, so equal rest there. You do have the small travel spot where Denver has to fly east out to Pittsburgh, so maybe a little angle there.
All right, the next game is Buffalo is a 5.5 point favorite on the road. This is up from 3 to 5.5 at Miami. I've heard some interesting. I want to hear your take. And one of the guys in VSiN said Miami's a terrible football team. I don't really agree with that. I think they're decent. I mean, they played decent last week. Fitzpatrick turned the ball over a ton, of course, but they were playing an incredible defense. Buffalo's really good at defense too, but this divisional game on the road in Miami, it's a lot of points, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I think that in this game, you have to look at Miami or pass. I certainly don't think that Buffalo is going to make our card this week, laying that number on the road. I'm not sure that I want to get behind Fitzpatrick, though, quite yet. You certainly know that he's capable, but I could also see that Buffalo defense taking its toll on him a little bit in this one. I'd be happy to pass on it.
Gotcha. Another game that I was looking at, and I know this is, maybe a little bit too quick to jump on this team, but the Washington football team is traveling to Arizona. We talked about that. Their defense is really good. Arizona obviously did very well against the San Francisco defense this week. 7-point favorites at home for Arizona. I don't know. I think it's a lot of points. I don't know. Washington may not be able to score against this team, but it's not like Arizona's defense is that great. So it seems like getting a touchdown with that defense may be a way to go in the contest, but I don't know how you feel about it.
I love it. Yeah, this is the one number on the board this week that jumped out at me as one that doesn't fit. I don't think that this Arizona team is quite capable of being 7-point favorites quite yet.
Right.
Washington, certainly when you're looking at preseason expectations, would be down low on the list. And I think this is a number that's really based on that preseason expectation. Dwayne Haskins was not that bad this weekend.
Right.
A couple of short fields, obviously, were helpful in them getting the end zone late. But for the Cardinals to be laying 7, I'm not sure they're 7 points better than any team in the league right now.
What do we think about the Washington secondary? I mean, they obviously have, Nuke is there now in Arizona. He had a huge game against in my opinion, San Francisco's they're not very good in the secondary, but, that's my only fear is that they can just get the ball out to him early. I don't know. What is Washington's corner coverage unit like?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I haven't dialed into quite those details yet. I'm just using Football Outsiders right now. They have the #1 pass defense. Granted, they don't have adjustments for opponent until week 4, I think. So
Sure.
you're looking at the Philadelphia outcome here, which was phenomenal, obviously.
Right.
But that may be something to worth looking into, see what that secondary, what the pedigree was preseason. Because certainly Hopkins is in line for a big day. I'm a 3-time fantasy owner of Hopkins.
Nice.
I know he's in for a big day.
Yeah, he's on my team too. He's really good. One of the favorites I do like, I know these have all been dogs so far that I've been discussing. I do like Baltimore going on the road to Houston. I'm not behind this Houston team at all. 7 points. Baltimore looked just as good as they did last year. No, Andrews had 2 touchdowns. Everybody looked good. No injuries coming to this game. Houston looked like garbage. 7 points isn't enough. So if I can get that, I'd go for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that Baltimore will definitely be one I'm going to take a strong look at this week as well. I don't think that Houston line is going to be able to fare well against the Baltimore front 7, and I really don't think that Houston's going to have an answer for Lamar Jackson in the offense. So I agree. I think they could put up a big number again this weekend.
Mm-hmm. That total did go down from 54.5 to 51.5. I'm not sure I love the total, but it's an interesting indication. One of the totals I was looking at too is New England at Seattle. This is the Sunday night game. Should be a fun game to watch with Cam and Russell, and obviously, the 2 coaches are storied. 45 seems like kind of a big number though for this game. What do you think about an underplay there?
Yeah, I think that looking at New England and under totals is always a good look. Certainly, I'm curious that it's gone up from the opener at 44. That's kind of a surprising move in my mind. But that may be just based on the offense of Seattle. You saw them open up and throw the ball 65%. That's going to stop the clock. And could be pros just looking at the potential for more plays in a game like that with Seattle passing the ball more. That's my first reaction. I do think that New England catching 4 points in this game might be worth a little bit of a look. I was
Okay.
impressed with Cam Newton, and I think that of all coaches in this pandemic environment, Bill Belichick is going to have game plans that are ready. Granted, this is a cross-conference game, so Seattle's
Right.
probably not on the top of his preparation list. Um, but I think that four would certainly be some value. The other thing, though, that may keep us off this game is the whole air quality
Mm,
index issue. Again, we didn't talk about it, but last week after we submitted our picks, we
right.
heard that the Washington and Arizona, I'm sorry, the Arizona San Fran game might get postponed.
Yep.
And we quickly found out that we would get a push in the contest for that. So I think we need to be a little bit careful of these West Coast game times.
Okay. The last game I noted is you've got New Orleans going to Vegas. This is Monday Night Football, and Vegas is actually a 6-point dog at home. First game in Las Vegas. We know there's not going to be fans or maybe minimal fans, but I do love the Saints. I think they're a good football team. That seems like a lot of points for that first home opener. And I don't love Chucky and his preparation, but they did look solid in week one. And 6 points without Michael Thomas, that seems like a lot.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it certainly does. It's very interesting that this line has moved so quickly in that direction,
Yeah.
especially after the Michael Thomas news. I'm seeing here on my screen that a couple of books even opened up at 4.5.
Oh, wow.
So 4.5 out to 6 gives me a little pause. You also saw the Carolina Panthers move the ball pretty much at will
They,
against the Vegas defense. So you may be seeing some Saints success on Monday night.
hmm Are there any games? It looks like you highlighted maybe Minnesota, Indy.
Yeah, I know that you're probably
Going back to
not
the well.
interested in hearing it right now, but I think that this is more of a play against Minnesota. I've
Okay.
already taken the Colts -3,
hmm
and I think that it's a number we should keep an eye out on because we may even see a 2.5 pop up in the contest lines. And we talked about it earlier, but that box score and outcome for the Colts on Sunday was really kind of quite the dichotomy. They
hmm
dominated that game, and I think that Philip Rivers and the passing offense is going to dominate this Vikings secondary on Sunday. Also, I think they're in line to put up a big number.
Okay. Interesting. So where are we sitting on Circa possibilities? We won't lock in today as we've talked about it on the previous show.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into that, let's get into Circa a little bit, just so we give the
Oh
by
yeah.
the numbers because people really know we're going to win. But the Circa Million II has 3,085 entries this year, so they didn't have an overlay, which we were actually really close to being that 3,000th entry. We didn't get a shout out. We were probably 29.97 or something. But this year they're going to pay out the first 50 places in the contest. Of course, 1 million to first, 300,000 to second, and 100,000 third. But they'll pay 2,000 for the 50th spot. That's great. They do have a booby prize this year. We didn't mention this last week. If you finish in last place, you get 100 G's, which actually is probably harder to do, right? To purposely miss.
Yeah.
Good for them for making it fun. And in my calculations, they also do these quarterlies, right? So that every month, the first 3 months of the season and then the last 5 weeks of the season are a quarterly contest. My math says the first prize will be 171,250, and then second is 775, and third is 25,000. I think they only paid the first spot last year, right? Isn't this a
That's
change?
correct. Yes. Yep. You are
So this
correct.
is nice. We've decided if we're in the top five of, at the end of the quarter, we'll be flying back out to Vegas to try to see if we can win, right?
Yeah. In fact, I think Derek Stevens is putting up all the contest entries in his hotels for free. So it would just
Nice.
be a plain fight. And of course, we would hit him on the craps table. So we got
Well,
to go.
he hasn't. You haven't hit the craps tables yet. They don't even know what
That's
to get
right.
them. But
That's
but
right.
anyway, it's pretty exciting that there's going to be a little bit more than 3,000. That's I'm sure an improvement from last year. So good for them for getting it done and luring us in again. But we like the contest. Week one, we did go 4-1. It's our second best week ever. We had a 4-1 last year, I believe, in late in the season. We had one 5-0, but it's a great start. Last year we're 2-2-1, a lot better start. And we really like, of course, the Washington comeback in that one. We're tied for 123rd right now in week one. So now back to the games. So if we're looking at some of these games, I know you don't agree on some of these, but which are some of the games you do like that I've laid out so far?
I think the Eagles is a game that we certainly should put a lot more heavy thought into, as
Hmm.
well as that Washington football team.
Hmm.
And I think the Ravens is another game that both of us would certainly find ourselves interested in come Saturday morning.
Right. You're trying to push your Colts on me again. I get it. We'll see. We'll see. Uh, let's see. Some of these other ones, you don't like these, crappy teams. Dolphins at home, 5.5 maybe, or the Raiders getting points at home.
I would probably want to read into both of those games a little bit more, take a little longer look at the matchups, see if we can find some edge of value there. What do you think about the Giants traveling to the Bears this weekend? Any interest in that game on one side or the other?
Well, great question. As I'm wearing my Bears shirt again. Look, I think the Bears defense, although they had that one stretch where they were playing terribly, they played great in the basically the first quarter and a half and the fourth quarter. It's probably a fitness issue, right? So the Giants didn't look so great, that's for sure. Saquon Barkley got bottled up, but that's a really good defense in Pittsburgh. I actually, I hate Daniel Jones. I think I'm on record about that. He didn't play that bad. He made a really bad play in the red zone. I don't know if you saw the play where he's fading to his left and he's trying to throw it
Mhm.
over somebody and got picked in the end zone. But I thought he actually played okay. It's just a stay away spot. I think the Bears will probably win the game. They should win the game. And I don't like the Giants, but I don't know. I'm not 100% on board with who the Bears can beat and who they can't beat this year. I just knew that they were going to beat Detroit.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to me, it just kind of sets up as a classic, you know, big move on week two. I don't know what the look ahead was, but I would find it hard to believe that Chicago would have been posted at 5.5 if you were looking
Yeah,
at this line last week against
yeah,
the Giants. So, I mean, to me, it looks like a little bit of value, but I certainly get it. It's tough to bet on Daniel Jones, especially against a defense like that.
on the road. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, any other games? You were on Atlanta
Mhm.
early, right? And that was to open up at 7.5. It's down to 4.5. So you got that at what, 7.5?
I actually played the Falcons money line on
Oh,
Sunday.
okay.
I think there's probably still some value there. I think that's another game that we should probably consider,
Hmm.
although I would expect it's going to be a very trendy pick given the line move already this week.
Right.
7.5 down to 4.5.
Yep.
You're still getting over the key number of three and four in this case. And I think that Dallas really kind of showed its flaws a little bit on Sunday night. The
Hmm.
defense certainly is not what we expected them to be.
Right.
And Matt Ryan played well on his side of the coin as well.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we have a lot to pick from there. We have,
Yeah.
maybe three solid picks. We just have to make some decisions on our last two, which is this is the difficulty in the contest, everybody. I mean,
Hmm.
it's easy to say, oh, I've got went 6-0 or whatever. Okay, let me see your picks. I mean, like, you have to make these tough decisions. We actually were between the Browns and the Bears. That came out on our side. I think we were down I guess it worked out either way. Pittsburgh would have covered, but it was Pittsburgh and maybe like Washington or something. You make these
Hmm.
decisions and you have obviously your logic behind it, but it's challenging. Plus you're trying to be contrary. We're really trying to be contrarian to the field because it doesn't make sense for everybody to pick the Colts because whether they win or lose, everybody goes up or down the same way. So that's why getting picks, I don't know if everybody was on Arizona, but Washington for us probably was a differentiator, right? We're trying to stay out of those top five consensus picks.
Yep. Definitely an equal eye to that as there is to picking winners. No doubt about it.
Exactly. Okay, well, we'll revisit it in a couple days. We'll get DJ Ward Enterprises on the horn and tell them what we're going to do. So let's keep it rolling, action. We want to cash some big tickets over at the D and have you win some craps as well. Um,
Yeah, I think if we focus on that 80% number, we'll be doing just fine in a couple weeks here, Wegs.
absolutely, just 80%. That's all we got to do. All right. Well, that wraps up episode 71 of the Side Action Podcast. I didn't mention this last time. We were trying to get all our technical difficulties in. Please comment, on the YouTube channel and also on the podcast. We love your comments. Of course, we can do sponsorships. I was ranking 312. I'm open to that. But no, put your comments. Let's make it a dialogue. We love to have your picks. If you guys benefited from some of our picks, if you cashed a ticket, let us know. That's what we're here for. Follow us on social media. Hit us on Side Action Pod on Twitter. Hit me personally at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
You can follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
So we're really excited about this season, and we're gonna do it, man. We're gonna win the $1 million.
I think so.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Peace out, America.